Jaden Hartwell, a charming 45-year-old investment banker, and his wife Karen, a 42-year-old art gallery curator, were the picture of success and sophistication. Their large 5-bedroom house, complete with neatly trimmed lawns and high-end cars parked in the driveway, was the envy of everyone in their neighborhood. For 15 years, the Hartwells had been community leaders, known for hosting extravagant parties, generously supporting local charities, and being active members of the country club. Their 2 children, Penelope and Atticus, shone brightly in their private school and extracurricular activities. To the outside world, the Hartwells were living the American dream. But beneath their seemingly perfect life, trouble was brewing. By the spring of 2023, the facade started to crack, revealing a story of betrayal, illness, and revenge that would stun the entire community. What unfolded next made friends, family, and neighbors question everything they thought they knew about the Hartwells. Jaden and Karen's love story began in the fall of 2003 at Northwestern University. Jaden, a senior majoring in finance, first noticed Karen at a campus art exhibition. She was a junior studying art history, her eyes glowing with enthusiasm as she discussed a particularly striking abstract painting with a captivated audience. Intrigued by her intelligence and beauty, Jaden approached her once the crowd had dispersed. He stumbled over his words while introducing himself, but Karen was charmed by his genuine interest in her work and his quick wit. They ended up talking for hours that night, losing track of time as they discovered their mutual love for travel, fine dining, and classic literature. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic gestures and intellectual conversations. Jaden swept Karen off her feet with surprise picnics in the university's botanical gardens, late-night study sessions that evolved into deep talks about their dreams, and weekend excursions to explore the city's vibrant art scene. After graduation, Jaden secured a prestigious job at an investment firm while Karen pursued her master's degree in art curation. Despite their demanding schedules, their relationship continued to thrive. They celebrated each other's successes and offered support during setbacks. In the spring of 2008, Jaden proposed to Karen atop the Willis Tower at sunset. He had arranged a private dinner in the sky deck, surrounded by the sparkling city lights they both adored. Overwhelmed with emotion, Karen said yes without hesitation. Their wedding, held the following year at the Botanical Garden, was a grand event that perfectly combined Jaden's love for luxury with Karen's artistic flair. Friends and family commented on how perfectly matched the couple seemed. The early years of their marriage were filled with joy and ambition. They worked hard, saving money and advancing their careers. Jaden climbed the corporate ladder with determination, while Karen made a name for herself in the competitive art world. In 2011, they welcomed their daughter, Penelope, followed by their son, Atticus, 2 years later. Parenthood brought new challenges, but also strengthened their bond. They faced sleepless nights and diaper duties together, their love growing stronger with each passing day. To everyone who knew them, Jaden and Karen Hartwell appeared to be the ideal couple destined for lifelong happiness. However, as time went on and the Hartwells' success continued to grow, subtle changes started to emerge in their relationship. The first signs of trouble appeared around 2018, coinciding with a significant promotion for Jaden. His new role as vice president at his firm came with a substantial salary increase but also demanded more of his time and attention. Karen, who had scaled back her work at the gallery to focus on their children, found herself feeling increasingly isolated. The intimate dinners and weekend getaways that once defined their relationship became infrequent. Jaden's frequent absences were often attributed to late nights at the office and business trips. At first, Karen tried to be understanding. She threw herself into volunteer work and focused on the children's activities, convincing herself that Jaden's dedication to his career was for the family's benefit. However, as months turned into years, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed between them. Friends began to notice the strain. At social gatherings, Jaden and Karen no longer seemed drawn to each other as they once had. Their playful interactions were replaced by polite, almost distant exchanges. Karen's smile, once radiant in Jaden's presence, now appeared forced and fragile. Karen attempted to mend the growing rift by planning romantic evenings and family outings, But Jaden always seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. When she voiced her concerns, he brushed them off, insisting everything was fine and that he was simply under a lot of pressure at work. As 2022 drew to a close, Karen's uneasy feeling grew stronger. Something was wrong, and it went beyond the normal stresses of a busy life. Little did she know, the true extent of the problems in her marriage was about to come to light in the most devastating way possible. The seeds of destruction for the Hartwell marriage were sown on a crisp autumn evening in September 2022. Jaden attended a charity gala at the Art Institute, an event where his wife would typically be by his side. But with Karen at home caring for their ill son, Atticus, Jaden had to go alone. It was here that he first encountered Viviana Rees, a 32-year-old rising star in the financial world who had recently joined a competing firm. Viviana was everything Karen wasn't: young, driven, and free from family obligations. Her elegant black dress and self-assured presence immediately grabbed Jaden's attention. They ended up seated at the same dinner table, and as the night went on, Jaden found himself drawn to Viviana's sharp mind and deep understanding of finance. Their conversation flowed smoothly, shifting from market trends to personal stories. For the first time in years, Jaden felt a spark of excitement, reminiscent of the enthusiasm he had once known in his youth. When the gala ended, they exchanged business cards, lingering a bit too long as their fingers touched. Jaden tried to convince himself it was just a professional interest, but thoughts of Viviana stayed with him long after he got home. In the weeks that followed, Jaden and Viviana started meeting regularly under the pretext of networking and exploring potential collaborations between their firms. Coffee meetings turned into working lunches and then into after-work drinks. Each time, Jaden found himself sharing more about his personal life, including his frustrations at home and the pressures of his job. Viviana, intrigued by Jaden's power and success, saw him as a potential mentor and maybe something more. She offered sympathy and support that Jaden felt was missing from his life. The line between work and personal life began to blur. A late-night strategy session at Viviana's apartment led to their first kiss. Overwhelmed by desire and the thrill of the forbidden, Jaden crossed a line he hadn't thought he would. Driving home that night, he felt a mix of guilt and exhilaration. He promised himself it would be a one-time mistake and that he would end it right away. However, as days went by, he found himself unable to stay away from Viviana. What started as a chance encounter was quickly turning into a full-blown affair, with serious consequences for everyone involved. In January 2023, while Jaden's affair with Viviana was intensifying, Karen received news that would rock her world. What she initially thought were symptoms of fatigue and stress turned out to be something much more serious. After a series of tests and a biopsy, Karen was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. When she got the diagnosis, Karen sat alone in the sterile exam room, her mind reeling as the oncologist explained her treatment options. She felt numb, barely able to grasp the details about chemotherapy, radiation, and survival rates. All she wanted was her husband's support, but Jaden was unreachable, his phone going straight to voicemail. When Karen finally managed to tell Jaden that evening, his reaction was a mix of shock and what she perceived as emotional detachment. He held her as she cried, murmuring comforting words, but she felt he was mentally elsewhere. She attributed his distance to the stress of the diagnosis, never suspecting the real reason for his distraction. The following weeks were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments and decisions. Karen threw herself into researching treatment options and finding support groups, determined to face her battle with courage. Jaden attended appointments and helped with the kids, but there was a noticeable tension between them. Inside, Jaden was plagued by guilt. The timing of Karen's illness was especially difficult, coming just as his affair with Viviana was becoming more intense. He felt torn between his duties to his wife and his growing feelings for his mistress. The strain of managing his double life while supporting Karen began to take its toll. As Karen prepared for her first round of chemotherapy, she sought emotional support from Jaden, hoping to reconnect with her husband during this challenging time. But the man she once saw as her rock now seemed distant and unreachable. Little did she know, the worst of his betrayal was yet to be revealed. As winter gave way to spring, Jaden Hartwell was living two completely separate lives. By day, He was the supportive husband, accompanying Karen to chemotherapy sessions, managing the household, and maintaining a facade of normalcy for their children. By night, he was Viviana's passionate lover, escaping into a world of excitement and freedom from family responsibilities. The guilt from his infidelity, combined with Karen's illness, gnawed at Jaden. He threw himself into his work with renewed energy, using it as an excuse to avoid confronting the reality of his actions. Late nights at the office became his refuge, a place to escape from his choices. Karen, weakened by her treatments and focused on her recovery, initially thought Jaden's absences were due to the demands of his job and the stress of her illness. She relied heavily on her sister Imogen and a close group of friends who supported her during this difficult period. They provided the emotional support that seemed to be missing from Jaden, although none of them voiced their concerns about his behavior. Meanwhile, Viviana grew increasingly impatient with the limits of their relationship. She pressed Jaden for more of his time and attention, hinting at a future together. Jaden, unable to fully commit but reluctant to let her go, promised her a vacation together once things calmed down at home. As Karen's treatment progressed, the strain on the family became evident. Penelope, now 12, became withdrawn and sullen, struggling with her mother's illness and her father's frequent absences. 9-year-old Atticus developed anxiety, clinging to Karen and breaking down easily. The once happy home became a place of tension and unspoken resentment. Friends and neighbors began to notice the shift in the Hartwell family dynamic. Whispers spread at school pickups and neighborhood gatherings. Some speculated about the impact of Karen's illness, while others wondered if there were problems in the marriage. Jaden's coworker, Dominic F.A., had seen him dining with Viviana at a restaurant across town. However, he chose to keep his suspicions to himself, not wanting to add to the family's troubles. As summer approached, Jaden found himself precariously balancing his responsibilities at work, at home, and with Viviana. His performance was slipping in all areas. He was irritable, distracted, and prone to mood swings. Despite her frail condition, Karen sensed that something was fundamentally wrong but was too exhausted to confront him directly. The breaking point was nearing, and it would come in a way none of them could have foreseen. As Jaden arranged his escape with Viviana, he had no inkling that his meticulously crafted facade was about to crumble. When July 2023 arrived, bringing with it a sweltering heat wave, Jaden made a decision that would irreversibly impact his life and those around him. With Karen's chemotherapy treatments continuing through the summer, Jaden claimed he needed to take a business trip to finalize an important deal in the Cayman Islands. Karen, pale and drained from her latest round of treatment, accepted this news with a weak nod. She was too fatigued to question the timing or necessity of the trip, simply asking him to call regularly to check on her and the children. Jaden felt a pang of guilt as he looked at his wife, but it wasn't enough to sway him from his plans. In truth, there was no business deal. Jaden had arranged a week-long romantic retreat with Viviana, using his connections to book a luxurious private villa on a secluded beach. As he packed his bags, tucking gifts for Viviana among his clothes, he rationalized his actions. He convinced himself that he deserved this break, that the stress of recent months justified a bit of happiness. When Jaden and Viviana arrived at their tropical paradise, they abandoned all caution. They spent their days lounging on the beach, sipping cocktails, and indulging in gourmet meals. Their nights were filled with passion, both savoring the freedom to be together openly. Jaden pushed thoughts of Karen and the kids to the back of his mind, immersing himself entirely in the fantasy of a life with Viviana. Back home, Karen's condition worsened. The side effects of her latest treatment left her bedridden and feverish. Imogen moved in temporarily to assist with the children and Karen's care. Frustrated by Jaden's absence, she repeatedly tried to contact him, but his phone remained unanswered. It was Penelope, inadvertently, who set the events in motion that would reveal Jaden's betrayal. Concerned about her mother and angered by her father's absence, she decided to use the emergency credit card Jaden had given her to order flowers for Karen. When the card was declined, Penelope called customer service, pretending to be Karen to inquire about recent transactions. The customer service representative, deceived by Penelope's act, disclosed a list of charges from the Cayman Islands, luxury restaurants, high-end boutiques, and a jewelry store. Distressed and confused, Penelope shared this information with Imogen. With her suspicions confirmed, Imogen decided to take action. She hired a private investigator who quickly uncovered the truth about Jaden's supposed business trip and his ongoing affair with Viviana. Armed with this information, Imogen sat down with Karen to reveal the extent of her husband's betrayal. With gentle words but unwavering honesty, she shared the evidence collected by the investigator: photos of Jaden and Viviana together in the Cayman Islands, records of extravagant purchases, and time-stamped footage of them entering and leaving their villa. Karen listened in stunned silence, gripping the arm of her chair as the full scope of Jaden's deceit became clear. A wave of emotions, shock, anger, humiliation, washed over her, ultimately solidifying her resolve. Once Imogen finished, Karen remained quiet for a long moment before, with a steadiness she didn't quite feel, asking, "What do we do now?" Imogen, relieved that her sister's response was not one of despair, replied, "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you." With her sister's steadfast support and the harsh truth laid out before her, Karen began to devise her plan for revenge. She refused to let cancer or her husband's betrayal define her. Instead, she resolved to take control of her own story and secure her future on her own terms. As Karen processed the devastating reality of Jaden's infidelity, she underwent a profound transformation. The initial shock and heartbreak quickly gave way to a cold, calculated anger. Despite her physical frailty, Karen's mind sharpened with purpose. She recognized that while cancer threatened her life, Jaden had chosen to destroy their marriage. During the quiet hours of the night, as her children slept and Imogen kept vigil, Karen began to plan. She refused to be a victim, neither of cancer nor of her husband's betrayal. With a clarity she hadn't felt in months, Karen decided to take control of her future, starting with the financial security Jaden had so recklessly jeopardized. The next morning, Karen contacted Ezra Cruz, a shrewd divorce attorney known for his aggressive approach to high-profile cases. In a private consultation, Ezra outlined Karen's options, explaining that she had a strong case for a favorable settlement. However, Karen had her own ideas. With Ezra's reluctant guidance and Imogen's unwavering support, Karen set her plan into motion. She began by meticulously documenting Jaden's affair and his abandonment during her illness. Then, she reached out to her former contacts in the art world, discreetly inquiring about quick private sales for several valuable pieces from their collection. The most crucial and risky part of her plan involved their joint assets. Using the power of attorney Jaden had granted her for emergencies, Karen started the process of liquidating their accounts. She worked tirelessly, making calculated moves to convert their investments into cash without raising immediate alarms. Fueled by a mix of righteous anger and newfound determination to secure her children's future, Karen set up new accounts in her name only, transferring funds with precision. The family's vacation home in Michigan was quietly put on the market and sold to a cash buyer within days. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Karen maintained the outward appearance of a woman focused solely on her health. She continued her treatments, attended support group meetings, and managed to maintain a normal routine for Penelope and Atticus. Only Imogen knew the full extent of Karen's actions, serving as both confidant and accomplice in her sister's bold plan. As the days passed and Jaden's return drew near, Karen felt a grim satisfaction. She had regained control in the most profound way possible. Now, all that remained was to wait for the man who had betrayed her to come home and face the consequences of his actions. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in late July, Jaden Hartwell returned from his Cayman Islands trip, tanned and relaxed. As he pulled into the driveway of their Riverton mansion, he felt a twinge of guilt, knowing he would have to resume his role as devoted husband and father. Little did he know that his carefully constructed double life was about to implode. Entering the unusually quiet house, Jaden called out for Karen and the children. The silence that greeted him was unsettling. He made his way to the kitchen, where he found a thick manila envelope on the counter, his name written in Karen's elegant script. With growing apprehension, Jaden opened the envelope. Inside, he found divorce papers and a letter from Karen detailing her knowledge of his affair and his absence during her cancer treatments. The final paragraph of the letter informed him that she had liquidated their joint assets, taking what she deemed her fair share after years of supporting his career and raising their family. As panic set in, Jaden rushed to his home office and attempted to log into their online banking accounts, only to find access denied. Jaden immediately reached out to his investment manager, only to be informed that most of their portfolio had been liquidated over the past week. The vacation home was sold, and their valuable art collection was gone. As the gravity of his situation hit him, Jaden slumped into his leather office chair, his mind spinning. His phone buzzed with a message from Viviana, inquiring about their plans for the upcoming weekend. Jaden stared at the screen, realizing that the life he had once desired now seemed empty and misguided compared to everything he had lost. At that moment, he heard the front door open, followed by footsteps approaching his office. The steps were too heavy to be Karen's. The door swung open to reveal Imogen, her face a mask of icy fury. Jaden understood immediately that she was here to ensure he fully grasped the extent of his errors and the consequences that were just beginning to unfold. Special Agent Vega from the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division was assigned to investigate the case. Her team embarked on a thorough examination of the Hartwell's assets, searching for signs of fraudulent activity or money laundering. They uncovered a detailed network of transactions, all meticulously documented and, surprisingly, entirely legal. Karen had used her power of attorney within her rights, and her actions were carefully kept within legal boundaries. However, the investigation did expose questionable financial practices on Jaden's part. His expense accounts revealed a pattern of extravagant spending that extended well beyond his trip with Viviana. There were irregular cash withdrawals, undeclared gifts, and indications of attempts to conceal assets offshore. As Agent Vega delved further, she discovered connections between Jaden and several companies that had recently been under investigation for insider trading. Although Jaden was not directly implicated, the evidence suggested that he had been treading a thin ethical line in his professional dealings. By the spring of 2024, nearly a year after the Hartwell family's downfall, the case finally went to trial. Jaden's attorneys tried to portray Karen as a vindictive woman who had overreacted to a minor indiscretion, illegally seizing assets in a fit of jealousy. They argued that her actions had not only ruined Jaden's life but had also negatively impacted their children and potentially jeopardized client funds at his firm. Karen's legal team, led by the sharp-eyed Ezra Cruz, methodically dismantled this argument. They presented evidence of Jaden's long-term affair, his neglect during Karen's cancer treatment, and the documented trail of his own financial misdeeds. Witnesses, including Imogen and several of Jaden's former colleagues, testified about his erratic behavior and ethical lapses leading up to the revelation of his infidelity. The most damning testimony came from Viviana Rees, who, in exchange for immunity, exposed the full extent of her relationship with Jaden. She detailed his promises to leave Karen and his dismissive remarks about his wife's illness. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the case had evolved beyond a mere divorce proceeding. The judge had to consider not only the dissolution of the marriage but also the potential criminal aspects of Jaden's financial dealings. After weeks of dramatic testimony and skillful legal maneuvering, the court prepared to deliver its verdict. Jaden was found guilty of multiple financial crimes and was sentenced to 3 years in a minimum security prison.